Twitter Spaces, Elon Musk with Mary Barra, someone who has, it has been very hard for her to even utter the words Tesla over the years. And here is this partnership.
And I do think it increases the probability that our forecast of 60 million electric vehicle sales by 27, it has increased the probability that that is right.
2/3 of the world is covered by water and the rest is covered by you, Dan Ives. There's a lot of stocks in your universe that you cover.
Well, tongues continue to wag after GM crawled to Tesla, tail between their legs, begging for access to Tesla supercharging network, and Tesla stock continues to tear higher, now down a mere 40% from its all-time high closing price, and still, in my opinion, you know what I'm going to say, so I won't even finish the sentence. By the way, posted an exclusive Patreon video this morning. I think I finally, and by the way, I'm serious, have a legitimate understanding of why Tesla's dumbest long-term short seller continues to bet against the company, throw emotional tantrums, and see fraud where there is none. Head over to Patreon or click the link in the pinned comment to join if you'd like to see that video.
Tesla EV against any other EV will win any head-to-head competition on value per dollar, performance per dollar, pick safety per dollar, whatever metric you want. And so by enabling Tesla to charge other EV companies to charge at their stations, it'll allow Musk and Tesla to underwrite a larger supercharger network and allow the world to transition to electric vehicles more quickly.
Everything Brett just said, absolutely spot on.
General Motors joining Ford now in partnering with Tesla to use its charging network in North America. Under the deal, GM's electric vehicles will gain access to 12,000 of Tesla's fast chargers starting next year. And GM and Tesla shares both higher on that news. It is a very big deal. Joining us right now is ARK Invest CIO and CEO Cathie Wood. Tesla is, of course, the top holding of the ARK Innovation ETF. Cathie, we were discussing this just in the last hour. It's a remarkable thing I was listening to Spaces yesterday, Twitter Spaces, Elon Musk with Mary Barra, someone who has, it has been very hard for her to even utter the words Tesla over the years. And here is this partnership. What does it mean, do you think, long term, both for Tesla, but also for the legacy automakers, GM and Ford?
Credit where it's due. Andrew rightly calling out the snake in CEO's clothing that we know as Mary B.S. Barra, who, upon Elon Musk taking ownership of Twitter, went completely silent on her personal Twitter account, and GM, the company which she is trying to destroy and send bankrupt later this decade, and by the way, she'll be very successful in that mission, pulled advertising from Twitter as well in a gigantic virtue signal. Literally, the first thing that Mary B.S. Barra has tweeted since Elon took over was announcing the live Twitter Spaces, which lasted all of about 5 minutes when you don't include the dead time at the beginning. Very different from the conversation with Jim Farley. Mary Barra, with her tail between her legs, announcing a partnership out of sheer desperation. She got called out yesterday on CNBS and dodged a question from Melissa Lee. Credit to the folks on CNBS for calling this out.
Well, I think it's great for America and our transition to the electric future, as Elon said. And I do think it increases the probability that our forecast of 60 million electric vehicle sales by 27, it has increased the probability that that is right.
The implications of ARK Invest estimate, if correct, are profound. You won't find a single forecasting agency on planet Earth who are even close to 60 million electric vehicles sold, even in 2030, let alone 2027. It was only a few weeks ago that Moron Stanley outed themselves as Moron Stanley, expecting just 25% of all new vehicles sold in 2030 to be electric. Spoiler alert, global automotive market, let's just round up to about 80 million vehicles a year. Do the math on that. Moron Stanley at about 20 million electric vehicles sold in 2030. ARK at 60 million in 2027. To put this in context, based on the assumptions in my Tesla valuation model, in the base case, Tesla would have about 12 or so percent of that market, and in the bull case, about 17% of that market. ARK Invest's estimate is going to be much closer to the mark than just about anyone is expecting. It's not to say they'll be perfectly on point. Of course they can't be. They don't know the exact number. But when most experts are at a fraction of ARK's 2027 estimate in 2030, there's a huge disconnect, and I know whose estimate I'd be putting my money on. Let me know in the comments below. How many electric vehicles do you think will be sold in 2027?
Had globally 7.7 electric vehicles sold around the world last year, going to 60 million, and is going to completely dominate the industry. And I think having both General Motors and Ford on this charging network, which is the big gating factor, range anxiety, gets us there that much faster.
I think there's two questions. Some people would say, great short term and long term for Ford and GM. Everybody's a winner in this. There are others that are concerned that say maybe great for Ford and GM short term. I think there's almost no question about that. The question is what happens long term if effectively two of the largest American automakers are effectively driving sales effectively to Tesla, both in terms of the electric power piece of it and effectively the advertisement that is a Tesla charging station, what that means long term in terms of Elon Musk's ability to sell more vehicles, potentially even at cheaper prices.
You know, this reminds me of what happens with most technologies that proliferate and scale. There's a standard, and here we have a charging standard. Charging solves the range anxiety problem. And what's also very interesting about this is it does help Tesla underwrite the charging station expense, because if you look at Tesla's sales, they are highly concentrated on the coasts. Now it's going to make a lot more sense for Tesla to roll out charging stations that much faster throughout the country.
Right.
This is true. The real winners here, of course, are consumers. Doesn't matter which electric vehicle they're buying. If these electric vehicles can access Tesla's charging network, and Tesla can use some of this additional revenue to actually build out an even better, broader, more comprehensive network, everyone wins. It certainly can't be a bad thing for Tesla either. Just think about the visibility. Imagine you're thinking about buying a GM vehicle or a Ford vehicle. Then you discover, you can charge at the Tesla network. Oh, that's weird. Aren't they competitors? Google's Tesla. Wait, what? It's cheaper, better, faster, and safer? Maybe I'm not going to buy that GM or Ford electric vehicle after all. Now, not all consumers will think like that because a lot of consumers don't actually think before they purchase. They emote, don't think, and then purchase based on their emotions. But rational consumers, when they're thinking about buying a GM or a Ford electric vehicle and then they discover that those vehicles have access to Tesla superchargers, which will be disclosed and will be a big selling point, some of those consumers will do some homework and realize that they're better off just buying a Tesla.
How much of their revenue and profits do you now imagine over time will be a function of the infrastructure part of their business versus the automobile manufacturing part of their business?
Spoiler alert, approximately all. Now, any other company would be happy with the revenue and profits from Tesla's infrastructure business, but in comparison to Tesla's automotive, but far more importantly, the software component, FSD, robotaxis, and then ultimately Tesla's humanoid robot, this doesn't move the needle at all. And I mean at all. Please refer to my Tesla valuation model on Patreon at the investor level and above for more details. It's a rounding error at best. That's not to say it's not meaningful, it's just to say that other aspects of Tesla's business dwarf any potential revenue and profits from their infrastructure business.
Well, actually, we think another revenue source is going to be much bigger. And of course, that's the autonomous taxi platform. And we think it's going to drive the valuation because the margins associated with autonomous are going to be SaaS-like. So instead of electric vehicle gross margins in the 25 to 30% range, we expect autonomous, the platform strategy, to deliver 80%, 90% margin. So the combined will be north of 50%.
In terms of the grid, though, that they're building and these charging stations, you think that's a small part of the business? Yeah, and the services that they may be able to layer on at some of those stations?
We have not counted. So we are in print at $2,000 in 2027, and we have not counted the possible revenue sources associated with this strategy. And we haven't even done much in the energy storage business away from electric vehicles, because we think the most valuable part of the business will be the scaling of vehicles to create this autonomous taxi platform.
As I said, it's quite funny, all the excitement, the buzz around GM and Ford using Tesla's supercharging network, and everyone continues to ignore what we're right on the cusp of, the solving of autonomy and unlocking a multi-trillion-dollar opportunity.
So, 2/3 of the world is covered by water and the rest is covered by you, Dan Ives. It's a lot of stocks in your universe that you cover.
That was absolutely fucking hilarious. Credit to David there. I mean, seriously, what a call. By the way, this is very true. Dan Ives and Wedbush Securities, absolute stock sluts. They are the town bicycle of stock analysts, which certainly doesn't imply they know a little bit about a lot as opposed to a lot about a little. Moving on.
But Tesla's certainly right up there. What is it about the stock right now and the company that is giving you so much bullishness?
Well, before Dan responds, let's just have a look what he tweeted out yesterday. We reiterate our outperform on Tesla while raising our price target from $215 to $300 as the sum of the parts story for Tesla now further comes into play with its supercharger network, energy business, AI-driven autonomous path, unmatched battery ecosystem, and increased scale. Could you be more generic, non-specific, and vague, Dan? For some reason, I'm reminded of a tweet. Just check the date on this, by the way. In case you don't know, I live in Australia, so somebody might be going, wait, what? Is that today? This was yesterday, my time. Posted on June 9th, 2023, just after Tesla had surpassed $215 per share. For those keeping score at home, Tesla stock now closed at $244 per share for the week. What's this tweet that just appeared from some guy posted on June 7th as opposed to June 9th? Why is the picture of Derp here again? Let me read this tweet. Oh, this fucking obnoxious guy with 3 first names. This guy's such a fraud. Don't drink that green stuff, by the way. It's terrible. Breaking. Leaked photo of NPC Wall Street analysts about to upgrade their price targets, not because anything material has changed in their Tesla thesis or valuation model, but because Tesla stock is now above their price target. If your fair valuation changes because the stock price changes, not because something material has changed about the company and your investment thesis, you are a clown. I don't know why I brought this tweet up. It's got nothing to do with this price target increase from Dan Ives just after Tesla stock's gone past his existing price target, which is then somehow rationalized by just a gigantic vague word salad with nothing material whatsoever changing about his thesis, just a bunch of words thrown in there to attempt to justify the price target chasing after the stock price. By the way, what's an NPC? Is that what I think it means? Is that like a non-player character, just like really obvious behavioral patterns, predictable ahead of time to the point of mockery and ridicule because it's just really embarrassing? Yeah, moving along.
Yeah, I think what's happening, it's a sum of the parts. I'd almost call it an AWS moment, almost an Apple services moment for Tesla. Because what's starting to happen now is that the 313 area code, after years of resisting, they recognize they need Tesla. And I think when you look at the supercharger perspective, from a revenue perspective, you go out 2025, GM Ford, they get 15% share. You're looking now an incremental $3 billion, $4 billion a year of revenue that was not there. And I think what's starting to happen right now for Tesla, from batteries to supercharger to storage, the sum of the parts thesis is now starting, I believe, in the early stages to play out with investors. That's really what's starting to happen now with the stock, in my opinion.
Oh, that clears things up. Thanks for explaining, Dan. I look forward to the next price target increase as Tesla stock approaches or exceeds your current price target, as opposed to having a price target that actually represents what you think the stock's worth ahead of time.
There is another theory that, he got them on the network and he got them on the technology, but that design, they have 100 years of refreshing designs with high frequency, and in the end, that's going to mean better unit sales for the legacies than perhaps the Teslas. What do you think?
Well, that theory makes about as much sense as the Earth being 6,000 years old and God just putting some evidence to the contrary in the geological record, the cosmological record. I could keep going on just to test everyone's faith.
Yeah, my view is that Musk needs GM and Ford actually be successful for the broader EV vision in terms of just adoption in the United States.
Move the adoption curve higher.
And it's the jobs thesis, in other words, like from Apple. And I think that's really what's starting to play. And that's why right now you're seeing Farley and Mary ultimately partner with Musk, because I believe this is just the first step. It's starting with superchargers. And ultimately, I think next step could be batteries technology. And I think that's the golden goose right now, is that they've built the castle, waiting for others to call. Farley called, Mary called. And I think it's just the start of what I view, especially with demand I view it stable in terms of, what we saw coming out of our Asia checks being in Asia the last few weeks. Margins, I think now are starting to trough out the next 1 to 2 quarters. And I think that's why investors right now are really starting to look at this in a different story.
So explain to our viewers just the revenue opportunity from these charging stations. How does Tesla make money from them? What are other opportunities that it has from all these cars stopping at these stations?
Sure. So 12,000 supercharger network. And when you start to think about it, they're really the only one. That's why range anxiety, why would a Jim, a Dave, a Sarah not buy an actual technology? Why would they not buy EVs? It's because of range anxiety. So now supercharger, Tesla has it. They basically get they make per charge. If now from a revenue perspective, services, we think by 2024, it's about 10 billion that we're talking about annually revenue, margins much higher than auto. So that's almost like software-like margins. Now, GM Ford, you get, let's call it 1 million cars on that network. That's incremental in the billions, 2, 3, 4 billion per year that was not there on an annuity. And I think that's why what you're starting, the reason I call it an AWS moment is I think for many years, AWS not really valued from an Amazon.
Right.
Now all of a sudden,
you
that
can
was
throw
a
a pretty
part.
high multiple on a recurring revenue stream like that, right?
Apple services, okay, all of a sudden 100 billion. You go back years ago, today, we think it's worth 1.4 trillion. So that's why I view it in terms of the reason I believe Musk is playing chess and others are playing checkers, you're now starting to see it play out.
Joining us right now with his reaction, Gene Munster, managing partner at Deepwater Asset Management. Good morning to you. We've been talking all morning about just the implication in terms of just straight up cash on cash earnings that this may create for Tesla, beyond the branding, beyond all of the other things that this may do for Tesla. The fact that now this becomes the standard and gives them an opportunity to grow even larger just as an infrastructure play, Gene.
It's true, Andrew. I mean, this is a positive step for a small business that investors historically have not given much attention to. That is that infrastructure, that charging network. There are publicly traded companies that do just that. But still, when you look at the context of Tesla's overall market cap, look at their revenue, this is a fractional business and will probably remain a small business.
Accurate. Again, doesn't move the needle. Relatively speaking, it's a spec. Sure, many companies, if it was just a standalone charging infrastructure company, they'd be very happy with a couple of $1 billion of revenue. But in the scheme of things, it does not move the needle.
Even with the addition of Ford, GM, and other car makers, undoubtedly will go to this charging network. So I view this more as a positive for GM and Ford. It's probably a neutral, a slight positive for Tesla, like we talked about, because they will pick up some infrastructure revenue. But ultimately is that they are giving the rails to these competitors which have been struggling. Right. And I think traditional auto is in a really tight spot over the next decade, in part because of infrastructure. Now, good news for Ford and GM, they're going to be leveraging that. And I think ultimately what Elon is doing here is he's making good on his promise that he wants to advance electrification. This is part of the company's mission statement to advance the energy independence. And so I think he's doing this as more of a move for greater EVs than a positive for Tesla.
Gene Munster has absolutely nailed it. This is mission-centric. Not really in Tesla's best interest, although, like I said in the past, they're not morons. They'll make a minimal amount of revenue and some extra profits. Cool story, bro, but doesn't move the needle. But this really does help the overall mission of accelerating the world's transition to sustainable energy, including electric vehicles. It's almost as if Tesla's mission statement is, in fact, a statement of their mission, as opposed to 99.999% of companies out there whose mission statement is a gigantic wank festival, which no one truly believes and the company doesn't act in line with. It's just a big virtue signal, not a North Star.
Look, I think it's an extraordinary thing, what he's now done. And there's no question. I mean, these mortal enemies, you probably listened to that Twitter Spaces between Mary Barra and him yesterday. I mean, it was awkward, to be honest with you, just hearing the different personalities on the phone. But it's an amazing thing.
Again, Andrew calling it like he sees it. I mean, just think about this for a moment. B.S. Barra comes crawling to Tesla and Elon Musk. Hey, Elon Daddy, we're going to go bankrupt. We're begging you, can we please do what Ford did and lead by copying Ford and gain access to your superchargers and adopt your chargers? Because we know we're going bankrupt and we kind of don't want to, at least not while I'm CEO. I'd like to take my golden parachute in a few years' time and let somebody else deal with the sinking ship. See ya. So, Elon, despite the fact that I stopped posting from my personal Twitter account the day you took ownership of Twitter, and GM immediately pulled advertising to boycott ads on Twitter because Elon bad, because that's what they told us to say, we really desperately need to do this. And Elon says, yeah, sure, Mary, no problems. Happy to work with you. Oh, by the way, we'll have to announce this on Twitter Spaces. Are you okay with that? Good, great, because that's the term of the deal. Mary's like, oh, fuck my life. Okay. It's so hilarious. Elon was super polite. The guy's not a dick. He doesn't hold a grudge. But I tell you what, awkward is an understatement. Contrast the discussion, the announcement from B.S. Barra and Elon, which literally lasted about 4 or 5 minutes when you don't include the dead time, versus the very engaged discussion with Jim Farley and Elon announcing their partnership. Awkward is an understatement. Embarrassing would be super accurate. And Elon, of course, took the high ground and even tweeted that it was a pleasure to work with GM, or words to that effect.
The thing that the upside, of course, is for the industry, for the country. There is potential, and by the way, I was going to argue for Tesla generally in terms of potentially both revenue and the sort of marketing and advertising they get from every time any of these vehicles now go to a Tesla charging station. Having said that, one of the things that's popped up on Twitter, no less, this morning is a number of folks who say, look, there's now a line around the block already for some of these Tesla charging stations, and the line is only going to grow larger. That's not actually a good thing for the Tesla brand. What do you make of that?
It's something that's real. If you'd poll Tesla owners, I'm not one of them, but if you'd poll a Tesla owner, they would probably be disappointed in this announcement. One thing that came up on that Twitter space yesterday that you're referring to is that Tesla would not give preferential treatment in terms of being able to jump the line with some of these other car makers in the charging line, and I think and they would not essentially demote what these other car makers are getting from a technology as speeding the charging speed times. So they're not going to meter it, and I think that that is something that could. Backfire is probably too strong of a word, but this range anxiety, Cathie is spot on. Range anxiety is the big issue here. It's kind of a bizarre topic but ultimately range anxiety and charging times and those wait lines all play into it. Right. And I think you could see a situation where this is viewed as a negative by Tesla owners. They
may not advantage GM or Ford per se, but my question was actually going to be whether you think that the way the charging stations ultimately will work, that it'll still be a more seamless process if you're a Tesla driver over one of the others, or you think it's literally will ultimately on an app be the same way the billing process, where everything as seamless no matter what kind of car you get in?
They addressed that both the Ford and the GM announcements addressed that in a subtle way. Is that next year these cars will be able to be charged from the Tesla charging networks with an adapter.
Right.
But in 2025,
that's not seamless, obviously.
That's not seamless. Correct. 2025, they want to embed the charging network into their software. So what that means is that if you were going to go on a trip right now with a Tesla, you can pinpoint your destination, and then it will optimize your charging route. Essentially, that is something that is integrated. That's going to start, they say, in 2025. And so I think from a user experience, the Ford and GM is going to be pretty similar to Tesla in 2025. Now, that's just for the charging piece. I think Tesla has an advantage when it comes to software. Ford would agree with that. So maybe there is some fit and finish around the software that isn't quite the same. But the substance of it, there's going to be a relatively parity around the charging experience by 2025.
Is there going to be a way to, for Tesla, you think, to market or provide other services to GM and Ford owners?
Allow me to answer that with a metaphor. Just imagine, hypothetically speaking, your wonderful, extremely loyal, beautiful girlfriend, for whatever reason, every other week or so, just had to stop by my apartment for 15 minutes for something completely innocent. Don't worry, she would never cheat. Would you be comfortable with that? Because you shouldn't be. Would that be a good idea? Would there be any opportunities for me to perhaps cross-sell her on some products or services? Maybe some better services than she's getting at home? Yeah, no, I definitely wouldn't worry about that. Certainly possible. GM, Ford and other vehicles are pulling into Tesla superchargers, that there is an opportunity there for Tesla to offer some services to said customers of other companies.
Over time?
I mean, they could. Yeah. I think just given Elon, I think that there's some fun direction that they could take these charging stations over time. I mean, they could really stick it to traditional auto and turn these into showrooms. I mean, they could put a couple like micro showrooms, and they've kicked around that idea in the past of kind of making these destinations Tesla branded destinations. Now, presumably those nuances would have been addressed in some of these details. I wouldn't imagine that Ford and GM would want that. But I think from a branding perspective, there's a big opportunity that Tesla can do as they build out this infrastructure. And Cathie, again, is correct here, is that in the sense that they're going to be GM and Ford. They haven't been explicit about what the amount is, but they're going to be funding some of that infrastructure build. So presumably Tesla could add some of these other services or just add more branding at the cost of traditional auto.
He's right. In essence, GM and Ford customers, forced to use Tesla superchargers if they want the best experience at least, are in essence having a one-on-one dinner with another man, but don't worry, he's just a friend. So I think we can safely conclude that the competition is in fact coming to Tesla to beg for help. Who could have seen that coming? Athletic Greens AG1 has given me a massive, meaningful boost in energy, allowing me to do a lot more every day, including using my brain more and using my body more. I highly recommend you guys and girls check it out. Athletic Greens AG1 is an excellent way to fill in nutritional gaps. It's got 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, and whole food source nutrients, plus prebiotics and probiotics and digestive enzymes and adaptogens to help you deal with stress. Plus, if you click the link in the pinned comment or head to drinkag1.com/SMR, you can get yourself a 1-year free supply of vitamin D3 and K2. But don't take my word for it. Here's what some of you guys and girls have to say. AG1 has changed my life. I was, as you described, treating myself like a circus, ate like trash, rarely exercised, used alcohol as a stress crutch, cannabis also. AG1 is what gave me the kick in the ass, got me back to the gym, motivated me to do more for myself, family, my business, etc. Keep doing what you do. Now, I know there's some skeptics, the same kind of people who think Elon Musk is a fraud, reading this going, what do you thought? There's no way that's possible, bro. It must be a placebo effect. Believe it or not, this is a recurring theme. If you give your body everything it needs to feel and perform its best, including having a lot more energy, you'll need ways to use that energy. For me personally, that includes more exercise, moving my body more social activity, and more cognitively demanding tasks, including producing a ton of exclusive content over on Twitter and on Patreon, plus my daily YouTube uploads. The proof's in the pudding. On to another testimonial from a viewer of this channel. SMR, you asked me to provide feedback on AG1. Here it is. It has helped with mental acuity, stamina, and intestinal waste management. Can't read between the lines. It certainly helps with regularity and digestion. That's what the digestive enzymes are for. It has also dramatically reduced my cravings for sugar. You guys need to stop eating sugar. It's fucking poison. I'm 50, 5'9", and overweight, aka a fat motherfucker. I think that's a technical term for overweight, isn't it? Is it fat motherfucker or obese? I can't remember. I average 100 hours a week in the West Texas oil fields as a safety supervisor. Jesus Christ, dude. No wonder you're struggling to keep your weight under control. 100 hours a week. Brutal. It has helped me lose weight. It is not an appetite suppressant. It can help fat people suppress cravings, and motivation to be healthier is critical for changing your diet. Love you, brother. Again, this is a great point and something people really don't seem to grasp. If you have more energy, everything becomes easier. It's like turning on easy mode for life. A few years ago, before I was taking AG1, my health was trash. I was struggling to get through the day, had afternoon fatigue. The last thing I wanted to do was either use my brain or move my body. Didn't have the energy. Now, my biggest struggle every day is figuring out ways to use that energy. I'm exercising way more, doing a lot more with my friends and family, and of course, my work output has increased substantially. And you can fact check me. Check out the average length of my videos I was posting to YouTube 3 years ago. Need I say more? And one final testimonial. Love this one. Okay, here's the deal for me with this AG1 shit. I'm 41 years old and not the type to eat, drink, smoke, or sleep healthy, so I was skeptical. That being said, here's what I experienced. Day 1, meh. Day 2, afternoon fatigue was about 45 minutes late. Day 3, 0 afternoon fatigue. Day 4, 0 afternoon fatigue plus extra energy. Day 5, again, 0 afternoon fatigue plus energy. Wondering, what the fuck, really? See, this is the thing, right? The results for many people are just almost too good to be true. This is the same experience I had. My afternoon fatigue just vanished out of nowhere. I'm like, wait, what the fuck? Why am I not tired in the afternoons anymore? Surely, it's not that AG1 is it? Turns out it was. Day 6 and 7, same thing. Day 8, same thing. Plus, I had the want to get things done around the house that I normally would slack off and not get done. Again, the point, extra energy, you'll need to use it, you'll find ways to use it. Day 9, 10, and 11, and today is day 12. I fucking love it. So however you managed to get me to buy it, I'm so glad you did. Thank you so much, SMR. It really changed me so far. Guys, this shit really works. Just try it. By the way, this is the reason I continue to relentlessly promote AG1. A lot of people get real fucking mad in the comments. Oh my God, Snake Oil Salmon's sold out. Oh my God, he's a scammer. This is fraud. But constantly, I'm pretty sure everyone making these comments is also currently short Tesla stock. I'm not particularly concerned about people having a negative perception, those folks suffering from small brain syndrome, still living in my bum's basement syndrome, etc., writing mean comments, claiming AG1's a scam or it doesn't work. I mean, bro, when I get feedback like this is what keeps me going. And remember, there is a 90-day money-back guarantee. There's nothing to lose here. Just try this stuff for a month, and if you don't get these results, get your money back. See, it's a literal no-brainer. It's an IQ test at this point in time. Testimonial after testimonial after testimonial like this. Get your money back if it doesn't work. Just try it for a month, and if it doesn't work, get your money back. Today's the day. It's finally time. Be like this guy who was a massive skeptic, but finally, after 1,000 promotions in a row, caved in, tried AG1, and has results like this. Head to drinkag1.com/SMR or click the link at the pinned comment, and please, let me know how you're feeling in a few weeks' time. Now, if you'll excuse me, time to put my extra energy to good use. I'll be recording some more exclusive content for Patreon and my Twitter subscribers. So click the links in the pinned comment. See you over on Twitter and or Patreon. And don't forget to grab your AG1. Love ya.